Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order our Thursday, June 4th, 2020 regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting. And of course, we are doing this via virtual reality. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock, and if we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Our first order of business is our public comment section. And this is a section that we have for people who wish to briefly address the board. We request that comments be limited to 3 minutes or less, and people wishing to make comment on an agenda type item, we ask that you ask whether or not to do it now or when that item is being brought up. We ask that you also give your name in the chat box so that you will be recognized.
There are no public comments at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next would be our good to know section. Andy, did you have anything for the good to know?
I do, but is this when we want to add things to the agenda before we get into the agenda?
Okay, that would be fine.
So I'll give the floor to Selectman John Collins. I think he wanted to add something under old business.
Okay.
Right. We made a motion. We are in the state of emergency or public emergency, as I understand it. I'd like to discuss that in old business.
Okay, that's fine.
And
So
then new business. Go ahead.
We'll put that under C and then move E to any other old business.
Yes.
So
And then in
C.
new business, I'd like the opportunity just to talk a little bit about the impact of the nationwide protests on Hebron and what we should be saying to our constituents.
So if the board agrees to that, that would be new business E. And then any other new business would be F. If that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
I don't see a problem with it, but I feel everyone has a right to have their own opinion on these protests. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But sure.
Okay.
So that would be new business, and that would be yeah, that would be E.
E.
Okay.
I don't think there's any other additions, I believe, from anybody else. If not, what I have, and I'll read this, it wasn't in the packet, it came in, I cut myself.
Oh, wait a minute, Andy, sorry.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if you're going to address this in your town manager's report, but they announced today that Governor Lamont will be coming out with emergency aid appropriations for towns. Either it should have been today, but it'll probably be tomorrow. You know about that? You know about that, right?
I did see it, but I feel free. I wasn't going to report on it tonight because I don't have enough of the specifics, but we can bring it up.
Well, I'd like to talk about how we're going to get our fair share.
Well, I can get into that with you. It was based on an audit that was done prior, and we kind of, where we are and what we're using thus far didn't have a lot of criteria in that audit, so I'm worried about that. So we're going to have to do some behind the scenes, get some behind the scenes help to try to get our fair share. But yeah, we can mention that.
Okay.
That would be new business, then F.
I was going to do that under the town manager's report if that was
okay. That's fine.
That's fine.
All right, and then remind me if I don't remember that I should, John. It's coming up close. But under the good to know, this is from AHM, and it went out to all the communities. But it's pretty much for support of the food banks. But I think it's important that it get read tonight, and the Board of Selectmen are aware of it. So this is from Tressa Giordano. She's the executive director, and it goes out to the AHM family. It says, "Dear friends, good morning. We are delighted to share with you that AHM Frontline Heroes sign fundraiser has been a great success. The fundraiser caught the attention of many local residents in Andover, Columbia, Hebron, and Marlboro, and neighboring towns. A team of AHM board volunteers, staff members have been out selling these signs for the past 3 weeks and have now wrapped the project up with wonderful news to share. As you know, our board and leadership team decided very early on the project that we wanted to do something not only to help our own charity, but also to support the work of our local food banks in our 4 towns, including Andover, Congregational Church Food Pantry, Columbia Senior Association, Hebron Interfaith Human Services, and the Food Bank of Marlboro. We would like to present each of the community partners with a check at the AHM Community Building on Tuesday, June 9th, 2020 at 1 p.m. We'll be meeting outside in front of the AHM building to present checks and take photographs. Could you or a designee be present to accept the check and to take a photo with the representative from AHM? We also ask that one town leader from each of the 4 communities also be present to take part in this brief presentation. We look forward to hearing from you. Please forward your response. Have a wonderful day. Signed by Tressa Giordano, Executive Director. So that was a good thing. It doesn't have a monetary amount that they're going to disperse, but I'm sure that'll be divulged at that time and date. But they're looking for town officials to be there, and I take that as elected officials. I'm not going to be available myself that day, but I'll leave that for you, Mr. Chairman, to discuss with the board.
Okay. Okay.
I'm happy to go. I volunteer there, and I think it's a great
That's
thing.
when?
When is it? It is June 9th at 1 p.m. at AHM.
Okay.
Okay, I can do that too. I'm free at that time.
Okay. So I was going to, Gail and John, you want to be the Board of Selectmen representatives then?
Great.
Andy, if I can get away from Ram for a little while, I'll go over there, but I'm not sure I can.
Okay, Mark. We'll let them know. And you guys want an email reminder with
I'm
the
good.
time and
Yeah,
date?
that'd be great. Yes, please.
Okay, so that's what I had for good to know, Dan, and that's a good thing. That's
Yes.
part of helping out where we are in the world today. So
Perfect.
next is the town manager report. Recent activities. It's going to be redundant throughout this meeting as far as what myself and the staff are doing, as we're continuously updating with the executive orders and working on the reopening plan. Has been 90% of the activity. We're still trying to finalize the audit, which I think we're very close, but until that's done, we're holding up a bunch of other things. But that's the recent activities. I'll get into, I don't have enough room to set up here. Okay, so last week was a short week. We met with Chatham Health. We're doing the first year review of Russ Millman, the director, and what a first year he had. I think he's represented the district very well and got thrown right into it. So we'll be putting a personnel committee together to do his 1 year review, which I believe is going to be favorable. And then, of course, there's been a lot of virtual meetings and webinars. So we attended a CCM webinar, Planning for the Future, and that mostly revolves around the COVID-19 pandemic and the recovery and plans for towns on how to financially plan and come out of that long range. So there's some benchmarks and some stuff that I've been dealing with finance with regarding some of those protocols. We had the RAM campus kickoff meeting. I don't know if anybody's been by there. That is full blaze now. They're going all out to try to get that completed within the time frame. So that's been awarded. We had the kickoff meeting and it's well underway. And there's been some information posted about access to the campus if needed, and lunch things and stuff. Mark can fill me in later on that if we need more information. But and then we've been working with the as late as today, the town re-entry committee meeting. There's a lot of protocol that has to be in place and met before we can do that. And I'll get into that a little bit further down the line in the agenda. As you know, I was working with the board and Peter Casper on that Board of Selectmen reopening Hebron. We had a meeting regarding that. Now that, this isn't a criticism, but now that we have a lot of people that are home, there's been a lot of mediation between neighbors with certain complaints, whether it be smoke, noise, animals, zoning, a lot more of reinstituting rules and regulations and defining them, parking areas at parks, things of that nature, a lot of crowding. So that's been taking up not only my time, a lot of the staff's time as well. So that's got an uptick to it. But everybody, for the most part, has been pleasant in dealing with that. We've been very active working with the lead redemption committee and making sure that the bills that are paid and the process that we have is completed. So when we go for the reimbursement, it's done properly and we can get reimbursed in a timely fashion. There was some little glitches on how that was being done between the entities. So we had to sit down, we got all together and hash that out. So I believe we're on the right page and moving forward appropriately. Some of the other things that we're doing is working with the restaurants through zoning, working with some of the businesses. We did open the tennis courts at RAM. I know we were getting some requests, Peter. Those are open. The parks are open, but not the playscapes or the skateboard park. So we're slowly moving forward and opening up some things as long as it's safely and the protocols are met. So that's what we've been working on. It was a short week last week. Here we are today.
Andy, just the emergency stuff. Emergency funding, just reminding you.
Oh, right. Yeah, thank you, John. So what John brought up earlier, I got an email yesterday through CCM, pretty much trying to spell out that there's going to be this money available for the municipalities to assist in some of the things that we've been doing and having to pay for moving forward for reimbursement. And from what I read, it was based on an audit that was sent to the towns. They go by your budgets and your demographics. And we filled that out and we sent it in, and we called Martin Heft at OPM when we were filling it out, and there was a couple of categories that we didn't even meet, and we called them to get clarification on it. We kind of already knew the answer, but it was exactly what we thought. You know, they were looking for certain criteria, and they have you listed in certain criteria of town, and we didn't fit one of those. So Elaine and I called up there, and it was exactly what we thought. We didn't fit one of those criteria, so therefore it put us in a different bracket. So now I got to see how much that audit for Hebron and what bracket that we're in we should be able to receive, and I'll do that through CCM, and I'll relook at the audit, and then we'll see what the guidelines are. So I really need to dive into that, John. I just got that information and haven't really segregated all that out yet, but there is quite a bit of money in a pot for the state of Connecticut and the municipalities, and how that's going to be broken out. I've got to learn a little bit more about that audit process.
Yeah, hundreds of millions of dollars. I would just say, just, you know, regardless of how they do it, if we have money that you feel that we should be reimbursed for, we should aggressively go after it.
We're documenting every dollar spent for this, and we'll have a run and tally. And there's a couple different appropriations. One's through FEMA at a certain percentage. I don't know if it's 45%. Then that money that just came out, I want to find out what the criteria is at. But we have a running tally of what's being spent in every department, and we're keeping that separate. So when we go for reimbursement, hopefully we'll get as much as we can.
If you feel that they're weighting it for the cities over the towns, I'd let me know. I'd like to know. You know, if you feel that it's not fair to the towns.
Yeah, this is public meeting, without saying anything that's not politically correct, the conversation I had with OPM, and I've seen this happen before with funding from the state during budget processes, and I hate to use this terminology, but you're almost getting penalized for being fiscally responsible. I hate to say that, but that's how it's looking.
Yeah, well,
Because of our reserve and being fiscally
Right.
responsible, it changed our plateau in that audit criteria.
you know, I would say, you know, if the Board of Selectmen also supports this, that we should aggressively make the argument that being responsible should not penalize us.
I agree. I'll keep you up to breast, and I'll even bring you in on that, and I'll forward you all the information as it comes through if you want. I'll send it to all the. But yes, that did come out yesterday. And that's all I had, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
and the board.
Just a side note, I agree with you, John. So often, those larger communities that can't seem to balance their books are always the ones that are given the bucket loads of money on the backs of the sound, fiscally responsible communities. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And we did a yeoman's task of cutting our budget. So as we do every year, we shouldn't be penalized.
but so many times the small communities are. You know, the deck is definitely stacked against us.
Andy, do we have any idea? I know I had gotten this information once before. For every dollar that we send to the state, how much we get back?
Not presently. We haven't done that in a while. We could do that again.
I've done it, Gail.
You have the current figure, John?
I have a current figure for, and I went through it pretty in detail. Current figure, let me just give you for the 4 towns that's in the 55th district. We send in $55 million, we get $17 million back, and that's everything. Yeah. So, you know, when you look at it's really interesting to look at the finances of the state of Connecticut. And I would want to compare us with the cities, because they do have many, their tax base is difficult because a lot of them are nonprofits, so they can't be taxed.
Right.
But a city like Hartford is in that realm. I mean, they send in about 59 million and they get hundreds of millions of dollars back. But again, they have a different problem. They have poor people and they need to be taken care of. But you know, our finances should be really re-examined, and we should be able to make an argument that we should be getting more, and our mill rates should not be so high as to cause people to move as they are in my street. I have two families that are moving because of taxes, and that just breaks me up.
Okay, next section will be our old business. A, the update on the COVID-19 long-term recovery and town departments re-entry reopening.
Yeah, so this, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the second part of it. The first part, we're still receiving names and talking to people that we think would be a good fit. I know, Danny, you had given us a couple names. I know we had a conversation with Peter Casper. I'm not sure if he wants to elaborate on that or not, but we still want to move forward. I don't think we're ready to do that here tonight, the first part of this.
Okay.
But we will continue to try to figure out who that person is going to be and work best with the administration to fulfill that obligation. So I don't think we need the motion read, but on a COVID-19 long-term recovery and town department Ramsey operating, a long-term recovery coordinator should be designated for the town of Hebron. It may be appropriate to establish a committee or task force to assist and support long-term recovery coordinator. The following offer was received from the Wyndham Chamber of Commerce, so they're willing to help us as well. We'd like to partner in creating a recovery committee and implementate your plan. We are working on several ideas and partners and would like to collaborate with you. Your community is in our service area and we support business in your town. Please let us know we can best assist you during this process. Looking forward to hearing from you. Our partners include SBA, SBDC, WBDC, CEDF, CLIC, Wyndham Arts, SCORE, and USDA. So I think that's a good resource to work and align ourselves with because she has a lot of the contacts for the head people of those programs available for small businesses within our community. So we'll continue to work and develop that, and I'm sure we'll be looking to finalize that in the next in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So now I got to dive in. This is what we're doing. This is what we've been working on. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting messages for what I'm going to read you as coming across my screen. So what we've been doing is we put a committee together for the office building reopening plan, and we're trying to work in conjunction somewhat with what the governor's trying to do, but I'm not sure if the whole Board of Selectmen or any of the Board of Selectmen know that there's quite a bit of protocols in place that you have to have before you can do that. And with everybody trying to do this at the same time, banks, restaurants, dentist's office, things like that, all the supplies, sneeze guard materials, they're all being sought at the same time. So it's a supply and demand issue, but we're going to work through it. So phase one for June 8th through June 19th, what we've come up with, this is the draft town office building reopening plan. This plan of the town office building reopen is put together in light of the governor's sector rules and reopening office dated May 8th, 2020, and effective on May 20th, and continue to follow safe workplace rules and essential employees, Appendix A. So the frustrating thing about this is we work and we meet as a committee weekly, and things change immediately after we meet or maybe just before. And you'll see as I go through some of this stuff happened and changed today. So as part of the Connecticut sector rules of reopening, the following basic overall parameters should apply. Capacity limit of 50% for businesses that reopen. Strict cleaning and disinfecting protocols in all settings. Those who can work from home should continue to do so. Those in high-risk groups and over the age of 65 should continue to stay safe and stay home if possible. Face masks should continue to be worn in public at all times. In addition, the DECD certification will be attained and displayed in all town buildings. We have to do that. A program administrator is to be appointed to be accountable for implementation of the DECD reopening rules. So the town office building staff consists of 13 permanent employees. The staff has been working at home where possible and coming into the office on a rotating basis to keep essential work flowing. Phase one reopening would continue on the same basis of staff working from home where possible and rotating into the office on a staggered schedule. Business whenever possible is to be conducted electronically via email or by regular mail or drop box located outside of the building. Residents that need to meet with staff will only be allowed to do so by appointment. Appointments can be made by calling staff members and arranging a specific time. Staff member shall meet the individual at the main entrance. Ideally, meeting will occur outdoors or in the office with a face shield that will be installed at the counter. I'll try to go through this as fast as I can, but this is important. All members of the public that enter the building are required to bring and wear masks or cloth face coverings that completely cover the nose and mouth, unless doing so would be contrary to the individual's health or safety due to a medical condition. If the individual does not have a mask or face covering, they will not be allowed to enter the facility. Staff should continue to use go-to-meeting conferencing to staff meetings and board and commission meetings until further notice. So we continue to look at that, and as soon as we can loosen that up and do it safely, we'll do that. We had a conversation with Russ Millman from Chatham Health regarding that. So we're still going to do this for a little bit while longer, but I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and possibly some of these meetings, not all. Staff will maintain a log of employees on premises over time to support contact tracing. That's, you have to do that. Staff working in the building will observe social distancing rules utilizing masks or other cloth face coverings that completely cover the nose and mouth, unless doing so would be contrary to the employee's health and safety due to medical conditions. If walking or working in common areas or where keeping a 6-foot distance is not possible, if employees are working alone in segregated spaces, employees may remove their masks. Employees are encouraged to wash their hands routinely using soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Hand sanitizer shall be made available at the entrance of the building for staff and for appointments. Cleaning, disinfecting products, and other disposable disinfectant wipes need to be made available near commonly used surfaces where possible, such as counters, common computer terminals, copy machines, bathrooms. Hand sanitizer should be available at each employee's desk. Gloves and face masks should be made available for staff for their use. To the extent possible, increase ventilation by having windows open rather than AC systems, so to increase percentage of outdoor air that circulates into the buildings where possible. A thorough cleaning of the facility shall be performed prior to the reopening. Common areas and surfaces frequently touched by multiple people, such as entrances, foyers, lobbies, bathrooms, toilet faucets, sinks, etc., kitchen, hallways, tables, doorknobs, light switches, computer tops, handles, desks, chains, phones, computers, monitors, keyboards, printers, scanners, fax machines, and touchscreens should be cleaned and disinfected on a regular basis. This is another important thing. A cleaning plan with checklists shall be created. Employees be informed as to their responsibilities for cleaning. I'm almost done. Bathroom cleaning and disinfecting frequently with a cleaning log for tracking. Installation of protective plexiglass shields to occur at counters and other work areas identified list. We have a list for that. Training is to be provided to employees prior to the reopening, during work time, and weekly refreshers provided to include rules of the DECD reopening document, protocols on how to clean and use cleaning products, including disinfectants. Post clear signage about washing hands, using hand sanitizers, personal protection protocols. Employees shall stay home sick, experiencing symptoms, cleaning and disinfecting 211 hotlines for violations and social distancing protocols, and Families First Coronavirus Response Act, FFCRA, Department of Labor posters. New signage shall be installed outside of the building to inform any member of the public about social distancing rules. Ask employees resuming on-premise work to confirm that they have not experienced COVID-19, define symptoms, and to monitor their own symptoms, including cough, shortness of breath, or any other of the 2 following symptoms. And it lists all those. Phase 2, which we were hoping to do, would be starting June 22nd. 2020. And starting June 22nd, the building would be open to the public, but we're going to change that in a minute. That was decided today at our meeting, but I've since got reports that the plexiglass that was supposed to be delivered today is back ordered. So we won't be opening the building on June 22nd. We have to wait till those sneeze guards are installed. So that'll give us a little bit more time to implement what I just read. And the plexiglass that was ordered is supposed to be in, I think what they just told me was June 16th, and I just got another meeting while I was reading that maybe even sooner. So we were hoping that the governor was going to open up more of the state on the 20th, which was a Saturday, So we were trying to be aggressive and follow suit with a soft opening on the 22nd. But due to these regulations and the lack of the sneeze guards being in place, we're going to have to push that back. So phase 2 would have been starting June 22nd. The building will be open to the public. The above protocols will be followed, with the exceptions of the public having to access the buildings in designated areas and follow all posted restrictions. So we're still going to have to do that. And then I'm going to be done reading. There's quite a bit more to this. It's a whole 14 pages, but the rest of it is the reentry policies that we came up with for each different entity or department. So everybody's been working with us. We had an hour-and-a-half meeting today. When we ordered that plexiglass, we were told a week and a half ago that it would be in today. We just got word that that's now pushed back a couple of weeks. So we're trying to expedite that and look at some other resources, and we'll continue to do that. But as we do that, things continue to change coming down from the state. As you said, we opened up the tennis courts, we opened up the parks, and we're going to continue to do what we can to get the public back out into areas that that we can safely. But there's a huge protocol in place that we have to have complete, including signage, training, and sneeze guards before we can open. So this is the update. I was hoping to be a little bit further along, but it's not to anybody's not doing their jobs. It's just the stuff is under high demand. And we're going to have the training done by Paul Bancroft and some CERT members. We've got the cleaning solutions. We've been sanitizing. The library is going to be sanitized. We've been doing the town hall, the Horton House, and the senior center on a daily basis to comply with that. And there's training that has to be done with that. Special equipment you need to, applicators to put that out there. So we've been working with the fire department on that as well. So we're moving forward. I wish I could say we were going to stick to the plan, but as late as this afternoon, we were going to have those sneeze guards made over the weekend and installed, but just got pushed back. So that's pushing this whole thing back.
Dan Larson, are they calling for thermal scans, forehead scans, people coming in?
No, there's a couple different plans, but we're dealing with that. We have a representative from the Chatham Health District that sits on the committee, and that gives you some false, you could not have a fever and still have the symptoms. Mm-hmm. So for, first responders, I think they may be doing it over there at the police and the fire department, but we don't have to do that for employees or people coming in. If they have symptoms or feel that, they may have something going on, they should probably not come in, but we're not going to scan the employees with a thermometer or the people entering them.
Okay. And then how are we set for personnel for cleaning with the multiple buildings that we have?
We're working on that. The senior center is going to be doing some stuff down there. The library is going to be doing some stuff, but as you well know, Dan, being in the industry, the more you do, like if you're spraying the sanitizer now, they're saying you got to wear a ventilator. In order to wear a ventilator properly, you got to be trained and be certified. And it's really becoming cumbersome. Before we had people wearing masks and sanitizing the buildings, but as OSHA comes into play, people need to be trained in doing that, and you have to have the proper PPE when doing that. So we're trying to comply the best we can, but it's slowing us down. Willie's doing the 3 buildings I mentioned. Fire department's doing their own. The library is going to do theirs. It looks like we might have to get possibly a service to help us, maybe with Public Works. Parks is doing their own. They have the equipment. The fire department gave us the equipment for Willie to use. So we're moving forward in a pretty good pace, but there are some areas where we have to do better.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none. Next would be the update on Hebron is open to business.
Andy?
Hey,
Andy?
Yeah, Andy's here.
Hey, it's Mark. Since I'm on the committee with you for reopening I want to commend you for doing a good job in your leadership and seeking advice from all the different departments of how best to go about this. It's good to sit on a committee and see that everybody's doing their due diligence and wanting to get back to business, but we're not going to do so unless we can do it safely. So I commend you and your staff on that.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Gail here. I spoke with, at length with Peter the other night, and it was thought advisable to contact the Hebron Board of Ed, Heather Pettit. I phoned her, and we had quite a conversation, and she is very much in support of what we're doing because it means cooperation between the various entities in town, and she will support us in any way that we would like her to do. And she does have quite a, as you know, the schools have quite a mailing list, email list, so it could be quite helpful.
And Gail, if I can jump back in, thank you. And you just, I'm sorry, but you just reminded me of two things I didn't have written down. Gail knows this. So in some of this reentry plans, as specific to the library, the Board of Trustees have to weigh in on that plan before it's finalized. So that's happening Monday night. And then also the Parks and Recs Commission is going to meet Monday night to go over their protocols and their draft plans for approvals. And once they do that, then we can finalize that. But I've been working with Kevin Sullivan, and he has reached out to other associate libraries and people in the industry, and he came up with some new plans that you're going to see or be privy to on Monday. And so hopefully next week we'll be that much further along in those two areas either, but those take participation from the Board of Trustees at the library and the Parks and Recs Commission at the Parks Department, both Monday night.
Andy, this is John. I too commend you. It has to be extremely frustrating, not only with the regulations or the guidance changing every day, but also with the health advisories, changing. I just saw that surfaces can't transmit this COVID-19. That's what CDC is saying now, but who knows what they're going to say tomorrow. So, yeah, good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And up to literally, now it's been that it could live on different surfaces in some cases for up to 2 weeks. So the information constantly is contradicting itself week to week, day to day. I think the public is beginning to get a little tired of all of this.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the kudos, but they need to extend out to the staff. Every department head, the staff in my office, between Dory and Donna and Elaine in finance, and then all the department heads have been very cooperative, dropped right down and got their plans in immediately. We've been curtailing them. Everybody's been cordial. There's a lot of answers that I don't claim to have, and we're working through it together, as Mark said. And we have the representative from the health district, and we have Nick from the fire department. We reach out. Kevin's checked with OSHA on a couple issues. So we're not to sit here and boast, but in that meeting, the representative from Chatham Health said we're further along than a lot of the other 8 entities that are in the district. So we're moving forward. I just hope the public doesn't think that we're not taking this seriously and moving fast enough, but we're trying to get it open. But I don't think they're aware of the protocols that are in place that we have to have before we can open, is what I'm gathering.
Yeah, I've gotten an earful from a number of people, and it is the difference between private business and government. So
Thank you, John.
Okay. Good. Moving on, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and yeah, echoing everyone's sentiments. Andy, you and the staff are doing a great job, and I think it's evident here as well as we look to take on some additional responsibilities and enhance our involvement. You continue to be nothing but supportive in providing direction and again support. So thank you for that. So I wanted to just sort of take the next steps in terms of providing an update from our workshop. Have gotten good feedback from the workshop, and I think we're in a good place to continue to take the next steps and consider that. With Donna's help putting the notes out, again, probably everyone saw the sort of a summary, at least at my cut at it. It's just a way to sort of organize the thoughts as we consider whether or not we want to move forward with the task force. So I don't know, Mr. Chair, should we read the motion and then we can get into the discussion after that? I want to make sure I'm following the protocol here.
Yes, please.
Okay, so if I may, on the motion,
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen establish the Hebron is Open for Business Task Force with a mission of supporting and promoting the Hebron business community. The composition will be as follows, and obviously I don't know what the protocol here is, but that is the motion.
You may want to list the people that you were considering
Okay.
for that commission.
Now, these were, again, my notes, where some of them have expressed interest already and some have not, but I'll read the composition, if that's okay, Mr. Chair. There's
Yes,
a couple
please.
that I don't know that their names, I haven't asked them yet, but the concept in terms of the composition was to have no more than 9 members, and we're looking for broad-based representation across the community, most importantly, getting Andy's recommendation and support associated with town staff. So we have a placeholder for that based on Andy's recommendations and thoughts. So we need to discuss that. One person from the Board of Selectmen, which I have put my name forward for that for consideration as it being on the task force. But please know that it doesn't work without all of us. But one from AHM, Tressa Giordano had expressed interest during our workshop, so that she'd already put that out there. I did connect with her earlier today to confirm that interest, she still has that interest. A Board of Ed, obviously Gail provided an update there, and there's some interest there, and obviously support. So I think the Board of Ed is critical. So thank you, Gail, for your work on that. We have Board of Ed, Ram Board had indicated that she would be that I haven't spoken to during the workshop there. The business owners, getting 1 to 2 business owners, and I don't have that confirmed beyond beyond Jess's interest. And depending on the number that we come from the town and the business, it was a placeholder for a citizen at large, depending on the composition, as making sure we're thinking about all parts of the community. So those are some names and the structure and the recommendation that we have no more than 9 members on this task force. So would we look for a second, Mr. Chair?
I'll do a
motion and then
second.
discussion?
Don't, but I will do a second. As I say on the town staff, I would suggest that Andy make the recommendation from the town manager's office. I think Mike, if he would be interested, John, I think is again a perfect fit. John Grodowski. Did you have any other business owners in mind? And I'm thinking would possibly the gentleman that has the fitness club.
Dave Rojas.
Well, it was Dave Ross and then Tony or Anthony who was on the
Yeah.
phone during our workshop, and both of those, yeah, I would clearly, since they've jumped in, and I know Wendy Dempsey had jumped in for Hebron Eye Care in terms of participating at some of our sessions. So clearly an opportunity to reach out to one, or I would recommend reaching out to those that have already engaged.
Yeah.
And so one of those, and we can talk through that, but I was thinking we would start there in terms of addition to Jess.
Yeah, Peter, it's Mark. Jessica's committed to do it, so you can mark her as confirmed.
Great. Okay, thank you. I hadn't touched base with you yet, Mark. So go ahead. Sorry, Dan.
Dan Larson, Mark. Would she be doing that as from the Ram BOE, or as a business owner?
As a business owner, I don't know what legitimacy there would be to do it as a RAM board member. How she could speak on behalf of them and something that's kind of unrelated to their task. So I don't know, maybe Andy, it seems like it would present some problems speaking on behalf of a whole board. So
If I may,
just a
Mark,
business person.
I'm trying to think when I say the RAM connection or the Board of Ed, it's really just at least initially, to communication. I want to make sure every part of the community has an opportunity to be part of this if they wish. So it's not intending to speak on behalf of the board, but maybe provide a connection, like Gail talked today to Heather, that sort of concept. Do they want to be involved? I don't want to exclude any group. So the idea of being able to connect there, it was just a starting point. I'm not looking to overstep bounds here. I just am trying to be sensitive to including the large communities we have within our community, and obviously RAM is one of them. So yeah, further discussion on that. But that was sort of what I was thinking, Mark, about how do we at least say, hey, if you want to be involved, or how do we want to communicate, or thinking about their multi-town reach and trying to draw more people into town in general. So yeah, if there's sensitivity to that, clearly I don't want to put her in an awkward position. I just don't want to exclude
Well,
that part of the community.
gotcha, Pete. So definitely as a business person, and I'll ask her how she feels about doing it as a RAM board member, or we just keep them apprised of what we're doing as just fellow citizens, or how we best can communicate that, Pete.
Great.
Dan Larson again. One other area, and I think I mentioned it to you earlier, would be the town center group. You know, Judy Padell and that group.
Yeah,
So-
hey, just so everybody knows, they're setting that June 21st as their music day. So it's going to be a big, they've already set that.
And maybe to further, Mr. Chair, the dialogue, maybe I could add a little context to a couple of things, if I
Sure.
may. I think John's spot right on, and I've talked to Gail about this as well. I think I envision this as multiple touch points throughout maybe the summer season or longer. We still obviously, as a task force, would have to establish that in conjunction with the town. And Andy's comments before about mentioning my name in another, additional capacity. If as we think about this, there's a lot of moving parts. Obviously, Andy's been pretty clear on what it takes to sort of even begin to manage all the moving parts. And if there's a way for me to assist, so we can not necessarily get, not have duplicate efforts, but maybe provide any assistance in terms of my role here with another role to help with the broader recovery and communication and coordination. I'm happy to help. So that's where I extended myself in terms of if it's something that I can assist in as part of, almost in conjunction with this too, not together, but the fact that it's sort of a role that has some similarities, and maybe so we can eliminate some duplication in terms of some of the communication and the connections. But I just wanted to touch on that briefly. But in terms of back to this, so the buckets, the communication, again, this is just my words. They don't have to, they need to be everyone's words. But when I looked at it, I saw communication, community engagement, promotion of physical activity, business support, community support, town provided support. And there's a few things that kind of I saw fell into the other bucket. I viewed the task force as having people that would take a lead in these areas. So obviously we'll use the town as an example with Andy's guidance. Okay, representatives would be that leading force in that area for the task force, to take that lead. When you looked at the communication piece, so how do we get the AHM community, the Board of Education community, the town community, how do we bring that communication together so we can send out concise messages, we can send out consistent messages, and we can draw more of the community into what is a community problem to solve. And so someone taking the lead on that. And then promotion of physical activity. You mentioned a couple of business owners who were gym owners, Dan.
Yes.
So, okay, maybe they take the lead in that.
You've cut out.
Of. But one of the things that Andy mentioned with the music piece and Gail, we had talked about it quite a bit, and we talk about the signage. You know, how do we sort of, that maybe is a first step. So we need a lot of help there, leaning back on the town. And through Andy's direction, I talked to Mike a little bit more today, O'Leary, and this component of it in terms of signage, and Donna had sent out the regulations, so we were all aware of them. But again, working with Andy, I reached out to Mike, and Mike confirmed that the signage component will be on the agenda for the Tuesday meeting. And I did volunteer to attend to make sure that we can provide as much color to this request as possible in terms of, if we were to, what do we have in mind? How does that intersect with the current regulations? What do we need to know? What kind of flexibility do we have? And Mike had mentioned a couple of paths that could be potentially taken as we look at working within those guidelines. And so that's ongoing. And so the idea here today is to get approval on that moving forward, the task force, finalize the membership, and then make it, and then start to work together, all of us together, to figure out what immediate things we need to sort of target, because we can't do all this in a week or two. But say I'm sorry, Andy, what was the June 20th or 21st? I forget what date already. What was the date you mentioned for the Hebron Center? Was it the Hebron Center project, the music?
The Hebron Center project is, I think John's correct, it was the 20th, the Saturday. We were looking to follow suit the 22nd.
Okay.
I think it's 20th, 21st.
Yeah.
Okay. So the idea there is, how do we, all hands on deck, that's a priority. How do we as a task force, how can we support that and start to maybe have that be the first opportunity to start to, get the community focused on what we're trying to accomplish across, multiple months. Obviously, this isn't a problem that's solved with flipping a switch. It's a long-term issue, as Andy's articulated, with all the work that has to go on. And so for me, the task force, formulate it, get approval if we so desire as a board tonight, finalize those that are on the task force today, tomorrow, and then look to work in conjunction with that activity. And I think the signage, from my perspective, just an opinion, but from my perspective, would probably be the first order of business. Andy's department was able to confirm that the signs that we've used in the past, we can get really quick turnaround on. You can get them in a couple of days. So it's really, if we move quickly enough and in conjunction with the town and the task force, we should be able to support that. Again, assuming we're going to get support from the zoning and all that. So a lot of moving parts, but I think we can do it. And I think it's multiple steps. So let's get the communication started. Let's get a couple of early objectives, and let's get the task force going. And then start to, again, we're going to have to lean on everybody. We've got, the newspapers. There was I thought it was a couple of good entry, or the Journal and the River East, and as Gail and I were talking about earlier, it's really, how do we highlight this as a series of things, right? Because we're small town America. We are. We're representative of what's out there for most people, and so the idea of following that story and subsequently the good press that comes with it should be an objective as well, I hope, because it really starts to tell the story of what each small community in our country is faced with, and how if we come together as a community, we can come out the other side, hopefully stronger as a community and stronger as a business community, but more importantly, stronger as a community. And so it's critical that we keep getting that word out. And I'm confident with the management that we have in town and the people that we have available to us, we could demonstrate that working together, you can accomplish quite a bit. And so how do we do that? And I think that's another avenue. And so we have to continue to sort of highlight this. And the first step would be to, I've got some other notes, but, hopefully move forward with agreement on the establishment of the task force. And then quickly, really fast, let's start to sort of execute some things the best that we can. Again, we're going to need everybody's help or it doesn't work. So I've got more notes, but that's kind of my ramble on. So thank you for listening to me and that. For a few
Dan
minutes.
Larson to Pete. Peter? Dan
Yes, sir.
Larson to Peter. Could I
Yes,
make could I ask you for, as a friendly amendment, to,
Sure.
in the motion, add the word anticipated between the and composition?
Okay.
And that way there, if the rest of the board is willing, we could hopefully pass this motion tonight, and that would allow you a little bit of flexibility from this exact 9-member list.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, so should we be listing the sort of the areas that we're coming from as opposed to the people? So would that solve that in terms of anticipated membership
don't
or
know.
members representing? Or would you want to put people's names in there?
I don't have an issue putting people's names there. I don't know how the rest of the members feel. The question would be the RAM Board of Education spot. Would that be better going to a different entity and just asking Jess if she could just inform the RAM board of what progress or how things are developing?
Dan, I think that's a good point, and obviously Mark made a good point as well. So I would agree that we could remove the reference to RAM there, and then we'll just recognize as a task force that we need to reach out to them in some respect, to maybe through Andy, I don't know, but some respect to let them know what we're doing and give them every opportunity to weigh in or participate or making sure they feel included. Maybe we could work with Andy on that. I'll defer to you, Andy, but we clearly at least recognize that we'll make overtures at the appropriate time, but it doesn't have to be within the composition. So I think that's a good suggestion that we remove that reference. We also remove maybe the reference, maybe we move, Gail, I'm not sure, should we remove the reference to the Board of Ed? I don't want to suggest that the board is involved in this. I just meant someone representing that community. So I don't know, Gail, do you think we should remove the reference to Board of Ed and just have maybe a reference to 3 citizens at large, and obviously, somebody from the Board of Ed, based on your conversation with Heather, we could pull in, but we wouldn't have to necessarily put in the motion that it's a Board of Ed position, because it really is, and I want to be sensitive to that, because Mark, you made a good point about.
So,
I think Heather's name can go there, but she will be, I guess you could say, a liaison to the Hebron Board of Ed, because we want to show that all the other entities, agencies, departments, groups in town are represented, that it's a cooperative effort. So I think leaving that in there, that she's from the Hebron Board of Ed, would be worthwhile. Shows that
So
the Board of
okay.
Selectmen and the Board of Ed are cooperating,
could I just say something?
along with all the other folks we have listed, AHM and so on.
Thank you, Gail. Go ahead, John.
So this is a difficult thing, and I guess I wouldn't organize it quite this way. I would seek out more citizens that have marketing and selling experience, because I think that if we're gonna put the goal of this in one sentence, it would be driving Hebron customers and other customers to the town businesses. And a lot of these people that are listed just don't have that expertise, and it is an expertise. It's as you know, you know that. So I'm not telling you anything new, but I think to be successful and to be nimble, we only have a couple of weeks to really get this thing going. You need to find people that in the town that will put some time and effort into this. And that's the other thing, is that this is going to require a lot of time and effort, that have sales and marketing background, and for one thing, knowledge of the town obviously is important. And then have a passion that's going to make this thing happen. I'm just a little bit concerned, about the makeup. Yep.
Yeah, that's not carved in stone by any means. We didn't know where to start from, so we just stood it out there. That can get changed in any way you guys want. That's not dictatorial to anything. It's just how we normally put something together for an agenda, so that can get altered any way you want.
Dan Larson again, and that's why I suggested the changing and the adding of the word anticipated. That would at least allow this group to get established, to start doing some things, and would allow a little bit of latitude so that we could get the best people that we can find who would be able to put the time in on this committee, on this commission. I agree with you, John. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of energy, and I want to make sure that it's successful as well. And you may find that, although I think Teresa from AHM may be fine, I'm not sure the Board of Ed is going to have somebody that really is going to be able to fit the need. They may not. Our town staff, I'm fine with. Again, we have to have them involved. The business owners, again, if they're opening their businesses, they may not have the time to put a lot of effort into it. But another entity that we've got who is ready and willing to help is the Willimantic Chamber of Commerce. And
there you go. Yeah.
There's a lot of knowledge there. So,
and then here's another person.
Necessarily on this town board, but that's an incredible resource. And I don't want to lose that option. So that was kind of right. I had suggested the anticipated. Rather than trying to nail it down in stone tonight, I'd like to, if possible, if people agree, leave it a little bit fluid, just because we don't have a lot of time to really lock it down and lock people down.
So, I mean, I agree with you, Dan. And it may well be that we just give it to Peter to come up with a committee. I'm excited about Peter doing this because I think you have the passion and the background, and I think it's really important. But I think a lot of this could be, get back to internet, social media, driving people that have backgrounds in that will help make people aware of new things. We definitely need Judy Fidel on this. I think she's got. Yep. She just has the passion. She knows a lot of people. She works like a dog, and she'll be completely committed to this. But I would just suggest that we get somebody that knows social media from on Facebook. That here's somebody, Rich Marzi. Rich Marzi is connected all over the place. He's a social media maven for Hebron. He might be helpful. But what I'm concerned about is this is so different that if we go with the same group of people or same types of people, I don't think it's going to happen. And I think we have good leadership, but we need to bring in blood, new methods. And so, yeah. And I'm willing to help, obviously, as put it in as much time. Just ask me, and I'll do anything. So there you go.
And Mr. Chair, if I may,
yes.
Don, I'm sorry, I got a little internet problem, so I cut out probably for a little bit and missed like your best point. I'm sorry, but I understand your point. I think you make very good points. That you're right. If to be nimble and to be effective, we have to get the right input across. We can't have sort of any sort of duplication. We have to look at it, and does each individual bring something to the table that others maybe do not? And so I might be relying a little bit too much on thinking about the community element of it to try to pull people in, but those couple of those people may not offer more than that, or we may have to think about that some more. So I think you make some really good points, and the composition, right, is critical, because one person can't do all this. We need all of us to figure it out, but having the right composition is critical. So maybe, Dan, it's a composition of the Board of Selectmen, representatives, so that's probably clear. I think you're right. I think AHM is important, so I think I'm fine with that. I think we can have, town representation, business owner representations, and citizen at large. I mean, we can at least create that structure so, the minutes reflect of diversity of representation, and then we could sort of maybe continue discussion and network and talk to a few people over the next few days to see how best to comprise those areas, but at least indicate the areas in which we're going to draw from. If that's enough, then we can maybe move forward to make the amendment to the motion and then vote on it, and start to dig in and see what we can do to get the composition right.
Here's another person, and the other thing I was thinking about is our customer base goes beyond Hebron. It's regional, and the other towns will probably have openings too, and we should coordinate with them so that we're pushing our customers to their openings, and they're pushing their customers to our openings. And there are regional marketing and restaurant organizations. There's one that's Rosie Kapoor, I think, out of Glastonbury, is very active on social media and in promoting businesses. But that's the kind of stuff that I think is important. That like I said, I think the whole enchilada here is getting the customers aware and pushing them to the town and the citizens. So, anyways.
That's really good perspective. So, Mr. Chair, how do you want to sort of capture that relative to the continuation of the motion and keep this thing?
Well, it would be, the composition or the anticipated composition would be as follows. No more than 9 members. Members to include one member of the Board of Selectmen, Peter Casper, one member of AHM. If you wanted to leave the 3 representatives from the town of Hebron, people, Michael Leary, John Kadauskas, I'm not sure who the third person you had there, as 2 of the 3, 2 members at large, and other people. Again, if Judy Bedell, I would love to see her on that, but other people who have a solid knowledge-based interest, who would be a positive force on the committee or something like that.
All right, so we have up to 3 citizens at large with specific expertise to support the task force initiatives.
It'd be the 3 town staff, your citizens at large,
business owner, up to 2 business owners,
right?
AHM representation,
And you as the Board of Select,
right?
And then, as I say, hopefully you would be able to get Judy Bedell, possibly Rich Marzi. As I say, the Willimantic Chamber of Commerce. If I'm not sure. I'm sure she's probably pulling her hair out. Nadine Nadeau.
But I would see her as a resource, right? I wouldn't necessarily see her needing to be on the task force because of all that she has going on, but she clearly has demonstrated a willingness to help, and so we just see her as a resource, not,
correct,
or making her feel like she's got to be on the task force, but someone who we're going to lean on.
I totally agree. So does that work for everybody's concerns?
Well, again, Somebody's background. Who is that? You're gonna hear my dogs pretty soon. You know, I really want this to succeed, and I think what I would do, because I'm concerned about. Well, actually, I would make the committee smaller, to tell you the truth, and get the right people so that it is nimble. And I would definitely find a social media person. And I think your first meeting, what I would do is write just a mini business plan, like a 1-page, 2-page set of actions that need to happen, and then send it to everybody and for input. I don't want you to get frustrated, Peter, because I think you're the perfect person to lead this thing, but like I said, you know, I mean, in business, you have to be nimble. You have to have freedom of action, and maybe fewer is better than more.
Well, again, by having it no more than 9 members, that will allow him. We have to pass something tonight that allows him to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I'm
So
done.
if you
Don't
say
worry.
no more, no, John, you're making great comments. So no more than, it could be 5, right? As long as it's no more than a certain number. So that gives the flexibility to figure out how to be most efficient in the composition and still include certain areas. Then it doesn't mean we can't pull people out, you know, have a smaller task force, but identify people who are willing to jump in and assist.
Exactly.
Because like
Right.
John, the idea that I'm not going to call you or lean on you starting tomorrow, right? You know, it's just, you don't necessarily have to be quote on the task force, but it doesn't mean you're not going to, you'll be right in the middle of this. And so if we say up to, then we won't exceed a certain number, but it could be 5, or it could be, you know, 7, or it could be whatever. But as long as it's not any more than, I think I'm okay with that as a concept, because it does offer flexibility. That's no more than. And we'll be targeting the composition to be made up of people that represent the community from a few areas that we've just described. And then we agree. If we agree and vote on it and we move forward, then we can jump into the, you know, getting it made up as soon as we can, like in the next couple of days. And I think you make some good points about social media and Judy and the Wyndham Chamber, or the folks that brought up, and Diane. So a lot to think about there, but. All right, so we need to make a revision to the motion. And Mr. Chair, you did a pretty good job of trying to capture that. So do we need to, Andy, do we need to sort of revise that motion in a way that allows us to move forward?
Yeah, I would amend that. There's a motion on the floor. I would amend that to however you want it to read. Who made the motion?
Peter made the motion.
I did.
I made the suggestion for the amendment to add anticipated, leave in there no more than 9 members. If you want to lower that, I have no issues. I don't know where you want to go with the rest of that. You know, the composition, the amended or anticipated composition to be no more than X amount of members, all who are willing and who have knowledge in sales or
Well, why don't we just say, can we be more general, Andy? Can we say the composition, it'll be,
You can,
no
you
more
can
than
also,
9 members.
you
Period.
can withdraw your motion if you want, and then
Okay.
recreate a new, more open motion if you that's what you're trying to do.
Let's empower Peter to come up with a committee that he wants, and not make any stipulations as to who it should be. And because he's doing this, and he's got to have the good people. We can make suggestions, and, you know, I can see a nucleus of Judy and Jess and Peter work together before, and be great. But let's just say it's up to the chairman to come up with his committee members, and up to, I don't know, 7 members, I guess, something like that.
Yeah,
Andy?
Gail here. I was going to suggest that 7 members. I don't think we should put any labels on who we want on it tonight. Let Peter find his people, and then those people each can reach out and in whatever field they're representing can pull a couple people in to work with them and then bring all that data information back to the task force itself.
Andy,
I totally concur.
Andy, why can't we just use that same motion, designate Peter as the chairman of the task force and change the last line to composition will comprise of 7 individuals as determined by the chairman of the task force? Why can't we
Very
just say
good,
that?
Mark.
Perfect.
Yeah, Peter can amend his motion if he so chooses, or rescind it and start a new motion, however you want to do it.
I'm in favor of what I just said. If you guys are in agreement, and Peter is, it's you're the one who's going to make this work.
I have no problem at all with it.
Did Peter?
I like what you said, Peter, Mark.
What's that, Gail?
That sentence. I like what you said. I thought it would
Okay.
work well. So we're not boxing Peter in, we're giving him flexibility.
Right.
Is Peter still there? Did he fade out?
Did we lose him again?
He's there. No, he's there. Isn't he? Oh, he's frozen.
Is he
Yeah,
frozen?
so Peter's got a motion on the floor. It would be up to him to either amend it or rescind it and start over.
Here he is. He's back. Almost back.
Sorry. I don't know. Can everybody
Okay.
hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. 2 more payments
Peter,
on the router, then you get a new one.
Peter, just rescind your motion and make a new one.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Or no?
Yes,
Problems. I keep getting kicked off, so I apologize. So it's Peter Casper that I just made. If I could do that. And then I want to make a new motion. Now, unfortunately, I cut off, so if there was something that I'm supposed to add to it, I might have missed that.
Peter, did you miss what I said? Peter?
I don't,
It's
well,
Mark.
yeah, repeat that, Mark. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting kicked off and
Well,
I
think there's two
missed
things
what
that
you said.
I think are important to include, that we designate you as the chairman of this task force. And the last line reads as the composition will comprise of 7 people to be determined by the chairman of the task force.
Up to 7.
Got it.
Up to 7.
Yes, okay. Good point.
But we should, if it's okay with you, obviously, in the motion, we would like to designate that you are the chairman of the task force.
Great. Okay, okay, I understand, and I'd be happy to do that. That's a good point, Mark. Thank you. I'm sorry you had to repeat that.
That's okay.
All right, so, Mr. Chair, so I have rescinded the motion, and am I in a position now to restate the motion?
Yes. You can withdraw the motion and then restate your new motion.
Okay, so I'm rescinding my previous motion, and I'd like to make a new motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen establish the, quote, Hebron is open for business, end of quotes, task force with a mission of supporting and promoting the Hebron business community. The Board of Selectmen is designating Peter Casper as the chairman of this task force. That'll be made up of up to 7 total individuals. That will be determined by the chairman, Peter Casper, of the task force.
Good. Okay, people hearing the motion, any further discussion?
Need a second?
Yeah, we
Second.
don't
John?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, John.
seconds, but
Oh.
hearing the motion, any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye with your name. Mark,
Aye.
John,
Mark.
John Collins, aye.
Gail,
Gail Richmond, aye.
Dan Larson, aye. Peter Casper.
Peter Casper, aye.
Almost forgot about him. Okay, perfect. Moving on. The emergency status, which was the thing that John,
I think he wants to talk about the executive order and then the emergency
Yeah. So,
declaration.
so this might just be clarification. We made a motion, I think, based on section 404 of the charter to go into emergency. And I'm wondering if we should rescind that now that we are coming out of that emergency. I mean, is there any reason why we need to, I mean, it gives, it gives special powers and actually, I don't know if we have had ordinances, but the ordinances would expire after 60 days according to the charter way. But I think it would send a good message to the community as we're reopening that we would come out of emergency, right? I mean, we're able to,
John,
yeah.
John, I would just suggest that we wait 2 weeks to the opening, and I don't think there's any harm in waiting 2 weeks just in case we have some change of events, unless that really concerns you to just extend it a few more weeks.
I would concur with Mark. My only issue, or until with the number of edicts that are coming down from the governor's office even now, I think it would hobble our town staff and our committee for the reopening of the town services if we suddenly had to get back involved with all the potential changes in how for and why fors. I agree with Mark. I think that definitely in a couple of weeks, as the state enters its ongoing phases of this, then yes, you're right, John. We need to get back to assume control. I just don't want to do it too early at this point.
This
Peter,
is Gail. I kind of agree. Right now, I agree with John's point, but I think because of all the things that are coming down the pike, we need to, for the next few weeks, keep the emergency in effect. Our next meeting is June 18th, I believe. Right? Would it be June 18th? I think, yeah.
Yes.
First and third, so, okay. And then we could reconsider it. In the meantime, as all these edicts are coming down, Andy does a good job of keeping us all apprised of what is happening. So I would continue it for a couple of weeks. And then I believe it would send a good message if we lift it.
Let's do that.
So if everybody's in agreement, that's a good point that John raises. That's another thing that we should be entertaining at this point. The executive order from the governor, I think, runs till September. At the time we did this, we weren't sure what we were going to be facing, but as we're coming out of this, it definitely is time to revisit that and get somewhat back to normal. So I think it's good that we brought that up. And if we add that to the next agenda, is that suffice?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up. Okay, any other old business? Hearing none. New business. We have a grant application for the 5310 Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities of the Federal Transit Act, otherwise known as FAST.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Board of Selectmen, this is on here, and Sharon Gerard has been waiting diligently, our representative from our wonderful senior center. She's been doing a great job with that vulnerable group that she oversees and works with on a daily basis. So thank you for waiting patiently. This is asking for approval for a grant application of the 5310 Enhanced Mobility for Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities on the Federal Transit Act. as amended in Fixed Americans Surface Transportation Act, FAST. And Sharon, we put the whole grant in the packet. I know there's quite a bit there, but Sharon is here tonight to give you a brief overview. This is something we've done in the past. It's a match, and she'll explain that. She'll explain what the match will cover and what the town, if we were to receive the grant, would then have to come up with the remaining monies. And we have an idea on how that should be funded as well. So without any further ado, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, we'll turn it over to Sharon Gerard.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Good evening. So the Section 5310 grants are federal grants, and we have acquired both our 2 existing buses, our 20 passenger and our 10 passenger, through 5310 grants. These grants cover 80% of the cost of the vehicle, and then the town would be responsible for the other 20%. I've long wanted to get a ramped minivan. We currently have, in addition to our 2 buses, an electric car that was acquired through a DEEP grant. But it's very small. If you have somebody who's in a walker who can get into the vehicle, but then you need to put the walker in the trunk, sometimes it's a job to get it to fit. So a ramped minivan would be a much better vehicle for our usage. I don't know if you've seen any of them. Yellow Cab has some of them. They have Dodge Caravans. Again, under this grant, it would be a Chrysler Voyager. So I had approached Andy, finding out that, well, I'll just preface that. Previously, the 5310 grants did not cover ramped minivans, and now they do. So I wanted to take advantage of the fact that they now do. So I had approached Andy about being able to write a grant for us to acquire a ramped minivan, and then for it to go to you for your approval. The figure that I have put in the grant, the $59,000, is basically a ballpark figure. The pricing that I was given is 2019 pricing. So I added some for inflation and added some for the extras. So it comes with cloth seating, vinyl seating, so we can, wash it, the non-slip floor, the tie downs for the wheelchair that retract. So those are extras. The award then could not go over that amount, and so that then limits your liability to the $11,800 that I had entered for the town's responsibility. So if the van costs less, then again, your liability is less. The grant is due now. We wouldn't find out about whether or not we were awarded until March. And then the order would be placed in April. So in April, you would know the exact figure of what your liability would be. The van would not be delivered until late October, early November, and that would be when the monies from the town would be due. So we'd be looking at, again, that coming out of the 2021, 2022 budget.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Andy, can we get that at the fleet rate since the town of Hebron owns it?
No, it's a special grant application. You have to go through the process and the criteria that she's explaining.
So you have to pay whatever the going rate is for the van?
Well, you have to do this to get the 80% through this grant application is what's more important.
Okay.
So you have to follow their
Thank you.
specifications.
Thank you.
I think acquiring this vehicle is really an asset for our senior citizens as they increase in number. It takes a lot more money to operate the other vehicle. With this one, it's a ramp, and as Sharon said, the little electric car is limited. Can take maybe one person with a walker. So this one will allow taking a couple of people, walker, wheelchair, and it's an asset for our town and our seniors.
It fits, it has 4 seats plus the area for the wheelchair.
That's good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Dan, I'm for whatever makes the lives of senior citizens easier. I have no further discussion on this matter.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm gonna read the resolution, open it up for any other continued discussion, and then, hopefully have a vote. So, be it resolved by the Hebron Board of Selectmen that the grant application be approved for submission for a senior disabled van in the amount of $47,200 through the 2020, Tradition Section 5310 Capital Program of the Federal Transit Act as amended in the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, FAST, and that Andrew J. Tierney, Town Manager, be authorized to sign the grant application. Funding for the town's matching contribution of $11,800 will need to be determined upon grant award. So hearing the resolution, any further discussion?
I concur with Mark. Sounds good.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Mark?
Mark, aye.
John?
John Collins, aye.
Peter? Peter
Lost him
Casper?
again.
Is he off
Give a
again?
thumbs up.
Okay, Gail?
Gail Richmond, aye.
Dan Larson, myself, aye. Motion carries. Are we having audible with Peter issues again?
Yeah, sorry, Peter Casper, aye. I'm continuing to have trouble. I apologize, but
Nope.
yeah, Peter Casper, aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good job.
Thank you, Sharon, for your patience.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, next on the agenda under new business is item B, would be award bid for parking lot paving projects. With us tonight, also waiting patiently, is our Director of Public Works, Kevin Kelly. This is something that he will inform you on. This is part of the monies of that bonding package that we put forth that was voted on by the public at a referendum. These are consisting of the 2 elementary schools and Company 3 Firehouse. So with that, I'll let Kevin explain the process and what he's proposing.
Well, Andy pretty much explained what we did. We went out to bid on the 3 big parking lot projects. We received bids from 7 different paving companies. The low bid was from V&F Paving out of Hamden, Connecticut. The project total was $388,143.90, which I consider to be a pretty decent price. It was $90,000 less than the next bid. I checked all the references and I talked to the company themselves to make sure they didn't miss anything and they were comfortable with the price that they gave us. They were. The references came in favorable, and we're going to recommend that we go ahead and award the bid to V&F Paving out of Hamden.
Okay. I'm going to read the motion. We'll have discussion and go from there. Move the Hebron Board of Selectmen award the bid for the parking lot paving go to V&F Paving in the amount of $388,143.90 and authorize Andrew J. Tierney, Town Manager, to sign any necessary contract documents. So opening it up for discussion. Anybody have a discussion? The only discussion.
To make one more statement, we do have a possibility if Hebron Elementary does get the chance to be paved this year, if they let us in time to get this started, it'll save us about another $6,000 too, because if we put an alternate in. This is supposed to be paved next year, But if we can move up the schedule, it'll save us a few more dollars.
Okay, what was the alternate? I'm just trying to get my hands around that.
The alternate is, the schedule is that have it paved next year because there's a contractor working at Hebron now. And we didn't want two contractors on the site. If they get off the site and allow us to get started to get this project done before school starts, it'll, as I say, it drops that project from 199,503 to 193,178.
And how long would it take to do that, to pave Hebron now?
Well, we have a window that it starts June 23rd for Gilead. I think it's June 29th for Hebron. That's, I'm guessing on that number. It's somewhere in that vicinity. And they got to be done by the middle of August, so that we're out of the way for school to start. So it's very
No, but
tight.
I mean, how many days would it take?
Well, there's 3 projects total. So they
No, but I
probably
mean- Yeah.
5 weeks on each project.
Oh, wow,
So they
okay.
do them simultaneously.
Yeah.
It beats it there.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin, I think what John's question was, if we were to get the contractor for the lead redemption project out of the way, could they get that done in like a week or two?
I think they would have to do them both together. They'd have to move from one job to the other
Yeah.
because there's a lot of excavation involved in this project. We're removing all the old damaged concrete curbs. We have to reclaim both parking lots, so they'd be jumping back and forth between the 2 schools. They couldn't do one, then move to the other, I don't believe. I think they'd
Yeah.
have to.
Just so the Board of Selectmen knows, we did try to schedule this all together, and then as throughout this meeting, executive orders and the governor's things as far as the schools also changed. So they changed dates around on us too. So originally we were going to try to get these all done in the first 1 year altogether, but because of the contractor not being able to work when he thought he was going to, and he pulled out, it changed the date, so we had to put it in there this way.
Now, would this 193,000 be in addition to the 388 then?
No, that's included in it. So that comes under the HES section of the project. So instead of
Okay.
spending 99, you'd spend 193.
Okay,
So.
Okay.
Kevin,
my-
it's Mark.
Yeah. Go
Kevin,
ahead, Mark.
Yep.
I know we've used the Marlboro firm before in town. I saw it there, but it was quick. What's the Fuller?
Fuller.
So did they just price themselves out of this? Because I know we've been pleased with them in the past, and I always like to keep things local, but
Well,
it seems
actually,
like they're a lot more money.
well, they are. And actually, Sullivan Paving was the contractor that did Firehouse number 3. And we had a very good success with them. And they both
Okay.
were substantially higher, which is why I made the call to the contractor themselves to make sure they didn't miss anything and make sure they were comfortable with the number. And they said they were.
Okay.
This is
Thanks,
one
Kevin.
opportunity where we can make ourselves, we can keep the money in our pocket for a change.
Gotcha. Thanks.
John, you were saying something?
No, I
Sorry,
just
John.
to say, if you're going to do it this year, there may be a window in August, but I don't know if it's 5 weeks for the elementary schools.
Okay, any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing the motion, all those in favor, stand by saying aye. Mark,
Mark Rivera, aye.
John,
John Collins, aye.
Peter,
Peter Casper, aye.
Gail,
Gail Richmond, aye.
and Dan Larson, myself, aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
A lot of work goes into all these bids, and we're very,
Well-
very fortunate to have such a dedicated town staff that puts the hours in to do all these project submittals and bids.
Well, just to jump in on that, Dan, what we did was we took those projects out of the CIP to reduce that cost. We were in between superintendents, so we took all that upon ourselves. We got the funding, we engineered it, we put it out to bid, and now are awarding it, and then we'll watch the project to make sure it's done to the specs. So we're really helping out the schools in this instance, and that shows in good faith we're working together.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, next is to approve and sign the tax rate bill. I'll read the motion. Move that the Board of Selectmen approve and sign the tax rate bill dated June 4th, 2020, as presented by the revenue collector. Do we have any discussion on this? That's the bill up on the thing.
Yeah, just quickly, the Board of Finance set the mill rate at their meeting on May 13th, 2020. The tax rate bill has been finalized by the revenue collector, and that's what's being presented to the Board of Selectmen. We do this every year.
Correct. Any discussion? Hearing none. Move for a vote. Mark Rivera,
Rivera, aye.
John Collins,
John Collins, aye.
Peter Casper,
Peter Casper, aye.
Gail Richmond,
Gail Richmond, aye.
Dan Larson, aye. We have the draft agenda for the June 18th meeting, and I believe we've already added to that. For one thing, the emergency actions of the town. Is there anything else that we needed to add on to that? Hearing none.
Just get it to us, yeah?
Just get it in. Okay, the next would be the 7E. John wanted to talk about this, the protests.
Yeah, okay, so I don't, I'll just go through it. I have a motion and then maybe we can talk about it, but I know there'll be some disagreement, but that's what this is all about. So I'll give the motion, then I'll speak to the motion, if that's okay with the chairman.
Yes.
The Hebron Board of Selectmen, and I'll speak slowly for Kathy. The Hebron Board of Selectmen supports the peaceful protests that are occurring nationwide for the purpose of having a meaningful discussion on the pernicious effect of racism on our people and our country. Moreover, we support the right to assembly, and we encourage the citizens of Hebron to exercise their First Amendment rights, including their right to petition their government with their grievances. Okay, so that's it. So let me speak to it, and I'll speak briefly. I, like probably all of you, have been watching what's happening in this country with confusion and sadness, and I have to say I spent a lot of time reflecting, talking with people, and I'm worried. I'm worried. I'm worried about our country. And I thought about this motion after I saw General Mattis come out. General Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, who was a great general, a man of great integrity. He was Trump's defense secretary. He resigned over, I think, Syria or something. But I mean, an upright guy. I mean, a first-rate person, first-rate American. And he came out with something that I think was eloquent and says better what I feel than I can say. Let me just read it. I've watched this week's unfolding events angry and appalled. The words equal justice under the law are carved in the pediment of the United States Supreme Court. This is precisely what protesters are rightly demanding. It is a wholesome and unifying demand, one that all of us should be able to get behind. We must not be distracted by a small number of lawbreakers. The protests are defined by tens of thousands of people of conscience who are insisting that we live up to our values as people and our values as a nation. We must reject and hold accountable those in office who would make a mockery of our Constitution. So that's what he said. And then later, Linda Murkowski, who's a Republican senator from Alaska, said, when I saw General Mattis's comments yesterday, I felt like perhaps we are getting to a point where we can be more honest with the concerns that we might hold internally and have the courage of our own convictions to speak up. So there's two things here. First of all, we are the lead governmental body in Hebron. We're the leaders of the town. I want people to feel that we support the First Amendment and that they should be able to assemble and speak their minds and without any concerns about anything, their safety or anything. In fact, we want to encourage that. Second of all, we are a New England town. We are the beginnings of American democracy. It started here. And back 200 years ago, it was the towns that came out and in proclamations spoke about national matters. They had committees of correspondence, and they were the ones that spoke up and made their concerns known. I am, that's the point of my motion. I want us to be able to say something about our government, our institutions, and to support what General Mattis is saying, is that support the peaceful protesters. The final thing, the thing that really broke me here was when I saw in Washington them bringing in troops to confront peaceful assembly. These were federal troops that should not have been brought in. And, again, I believe and I think we all believe very strongly about our rights as American citizens and how important, what a gift we've been given to be in this democracy. And I think this resolution, this motion is just a small attempt to voice our support and our concern. Thank you.
Okay.
May I speak, Dan?
Yes, please.
I support John's motion, and I'm in a unique position to say that I've stood on those lines with police. I've been rocked and bottled. I've had urine thrown on me. I've been spit on. I've been called every name you can imagine. But the people's right to protest is sacred. And I've been at protests which were beautiful and almost brought tears to my eyes. I've been at riots, which aren't protests, and they're abhorrent and unjustified. And sometimes the two occur simultaneously. Sometimes there's a peaceful protest. Sometimes, for whatever reasons, they get out of control, but it's sacred to do that. It's also unjustifiable for a police officer to put his knee on somebody's neck for 9 minutes and kill him and nobody else to do anything. And I included, and most of the police officers that I know were angry and upset and horrified that that took place and that the public would somehow view me and my fellow police officers, my brother police officers, as individuals that are like that. And that's not the case. So I don't like no justice, no peace. George Floyd's brother said a better adage is justice on the right, peace on the left. And I'm hoping that, and this really disturbs me. I can't even watch TV anymore, guys, to tell you the truth, because it hurts me on so many levels. And I don't think it would hurt us to show sensitivity to the suffering of anybody, whether it be police officers or those who feel like they've been mistreated by the government or anybody else. I'm done.
Anyone else?
This is Peter Casper, Mr. Chair. Dan, okay to go forward?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I appreciate John bringing it forward, and obviously the words of Mark are very meaningful because obviously you're on the front line, and it's an interesting sort of evolution of the need for communities to provide direction, support. I'll give you one example. If my son is they use a military term, Mark. He's the boat leader on one of the what they call boat leaders, which is tied to the Navy SEALs, but a name for a leader of his lacrosse, a group of lacrosse people on his college lacrosse team. And his coach tonight, they have a meeting with his teams, the different boat teams they call them. And one of the directives from the coach was actually to address to the incoming freshmen this issue of a voice, a community voice, and supporting that voice being heard in an appropriate way. So I think it goes into every element of society, and I'm learning as I go on this, but I think it is important for us to articulate our position associated with supporting our community, having a peaceful voice, and supporting needed societal change. But I think society is looking, different parts of different communities are looking for leadership. And so I'm sensitive to it being apolitical, not being a political message, but a one of taking a position of leadership. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness, John, of you bringing this forward for discussion, and I hear you as well, Mark. And I do think that it's an opportunity for us to articulate our position as a leadership board of our community, and maybe be a voice of support for everyone in our community, because ultimately we're all impacted by it in one way, shape, or form. So I appreciate both of your words, and that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Gail?
I support it. I liked it. I have family in many of these places, where, including, I have a nephew up in south of Minneapolis, who's been talking to me about what's going on. So I've been following it, although, as John says, the news, I no longer want to see the news, but we have to put ourselves on record as supporting basic rights. And that's what this motion will do. We'll say that the town of Hebron is supporting our fundamental right.
And as a daughter of Brooklyn, Gail, that means a lot because you're an inner city girl. You get this more
Yes,
than a lot of people. And I'm a Hartford kid, so I get it.
I was in school in 1968 when there was a lot going on, so yes.
Me too.
Okay. I also fully support people's First Amendment rights to peacefully demonstrate. The second that it ends up not being peaceful, and the second that it starts either infringing upon other people's rights, or the breaking and rioting and looting and burning, at that point, in my estimation, they have forgone their rights. They are nothing at that point other than mobsters and human garbage. People that want to protest peacefully, that is a right guaranteed by the Constitution, and I always and fully support the rights as given to us as free peoples of the United States Constitution. So I don't know if you want to read your motion again, John?
Sure. So the motion's this: the Hebron Board of Selectmen supports the peaceful protests that are occurring nationwide for the purpose of having a meaningful discussion on the pernicious effect of racism on our people and our country. Moreover, we support the right to assembly, and we encourage the citizens of Hebron to exercise their First Amendment rights, including their right to petition their government with their grievances.
Okay. Hearing the motion. All those in favor? Mark?
Mark Rivera, aye.
Peter Casper?
Peter Casper, aye.
John Collins?
John Collins, aye.
Gail Richmond?
Gail Richmond, aye.
And Daniel Larson, aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm proud of this board.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is, or actually any other new business? Hearing none, the consent agenda. And we may be able to vote on this as a package. We have the approval of the May 7th, 2020 regular meeting, the May 21st, 2020 regular meeting, and then the tax refunds as listed. Does anybody need anything pulled?
Chairman Larson, it's Donna. We do not have those May 7th minutes, so we're going to have to move that to the next agenda.
Okay, so which are the ones that were in the packet, the 21st?
Yes, May 21st is what you'll be voting on.
Okay. Okay, so
That's why I
I'll
couldn't
make the
find them. They're
amendment.
not there.
The approval of the minutes of May 21st, 2020, the regular meeting, and then the tax refunds. I'm just thinking if there was a special meeting in there, but we may have already done that, and I just don't remember. So, Mark Rivera,
Aye.
John Collins,
John Collins, aye.
Peter Casper,
Peter Casper, aye.
Gail Richmond,
Gail Richmond, aye.
and Daniel Larson, aye. Liaison reports. Mark?
Ram, as you probably all know by now, that Pat Law has resigned and her last day is basically the graduation on the 16th. Principal Scott Leslie has agreed to take over as the interim. We're still in discussions and having meetings all the time about what to do about next year. There really is no consensus about what to do. And there's been ideas thrown out. And if you're just a little bit interested, going to school part-time, getting out before lunchtime, limiting the number of students that come to school to half on one day, half another day, virtual school. We're still talking about what to do with athletics, and there really is nothing definitive yet, guys. So I think it'll be a little longer before we find out what our school year is going to look like at Ram.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Are they doing any kind of a study in talking with a lot of different parents and kids? Some parents love the social distance learning, and they say their children have really blossomed utilizing the computer-based learning. And then there's other children that it has been a complete and total failure. Have they thought of any kind of a hybrid between the two systems? Or do you have any ideas on any of that, or no?
Yeah, yes, Dan. They're researching that, and RAM confers with all the other school districts, and they all share their experiences, and they're trying to create the best system. But it seems now that the hybrid is what would be the most practicable thing to take place, but nobody's actually saying what it's going to be. I know a few people have come out and actually said that they're probably not going to have fall athletics, though. But
Okay.
the close contact of playing soccer, of teams practicing together, there's no way to maintain social distancing in a competitive environment, maybe cross country, but those things haven't really been determined yet, Dan. So when I get more, I'll share it with you guys.
Yet I know a neighboring town is actually starting their baseball program the 20th or the 22nd. So it's.
And Andy's sometimes privy to these conversations and what the school is addressing right now too. Pretty consistent with what I'm saying, Andy?
It is. It's all over the place. They had a meeting again today, virtual meeting, and they're saying even though there is a hybrid, that one size doesn't fit all from, Stanford down to little towns of Columbia. So one of the things that seems to be consistent is what you just stated, possibly splitting up of amounts of kids, grades, rotations, different times. So one thing that is prevalent is expense. Whatever we do differently in the manners that they're talking is going to cost more money in transportation, education, and facilities for cleaning and everything else. So we're looking at some expense. So I'm dealing with the two superintendents on almost a daily basis, if not every other day. So it's, as I stated throughout this whole meeting, it's constantly changing. You hear one thing, we meet weekly, we plan for it as we did today, and then all of a sudden we get information that changes that. So we're grinning and bearing it. I know the two superintendents are diligently on those calls, and they'll keep us posted as well.
Actually, Andy and Dan, the biggest thing that they talked about in the past week is how do we get the kids to school on the buses? How do you maintain social distancing on a bus? How many kids can you put there? What about the bus driver? So that's almost been the biggest sticking point for trying to find something that's safe. And nobody really has an idea about that one yet.
Dan Larson again. And here again, it would be so nice if all of our boards of ed would talk with other towns' boards of ed and seeing if there's areas where we can utilize each other's space or what have you. It's time to take a new approach and open up and share resources. I don't know how else to say it. I know, John, I see you nodding in agreement.
Well, we are in the crisis of a lifetime now. And, there's certainly very bad things that are happening, but within a crisis, you have opportunities to change. Now's the time to change. Let's do it. The state's finances are going to come down and they're going to start telling us what to do. And before we do that, we should take the opportunity to make more efficient, do things more efficiently.
Right.
And I agree with you. I totally agree with you, Dan.
You too.
Dan, as you know, I've been talking for several years over wanting to do something to improve the interaction of the schools in the towns, our town and the towns around us. And John is absolutely correct. If we don't take control of that, the state will impose control on us. So we should get our house in order and have some real sit downs and study these things. And I've been volunteering for that, as you know, and Andy knows, for a long time. Now, if a few other people would join, but this may cause other towns to realize that we're going to rapidly lose control of ourselves if we don't do something. So perhaps we can make use of this opportunity.
We need to be on the leading edge of this, not on the following edge.
Yeah, you're right, Dan. You want to deal from a position of strength. I've been through a couple of these merger things, and you want to deal from a position of strength. And if you don't, if you wait, you won't be dealing from a position of strength. So I'm echoing what everyone's saying, but there's no question while you're strong is when you make your changes. If not, someone will make them for you, as Gail said, and as John has said. So the sense of urgency couldn't be more clear.
Yes.
And you have another opportunity presenting itself now with the superintendent of the regional school, even in an interim
Yes,
year. There's another clear opportunity right there.
Exactly.
we've had
Yeah.
these opportunities in the past and they were allowed to just go. So, here we go again. Let's grab this one.
Okay.
Money's gonna be tight, folks.
Everything. Yeah, we need to start utilizing the combined resources of ourselves and our neighbors. It just makes financial sense, as well as the sociological sense. You know, it's time. I don't know how else to say it. It's time. Problem is, all we can do is suggest the way the legislative acts are written. We can suggest, and hopefully they'll listen. I'm sorry. I digress. Anything else, Mark?
No, thank you.
Gail?
As always, I have a few things. The Douglas Library, curbside delivery of library materials began on Monday. It's been very popular. Patrons can order books, DVDs, and other material by phone or online. And if your library card is expired and needs to be renewed, you can do that. If you don't have one, you can obtain that, again, online. A lot of people coming in and getting their bags of books, which are outside on wagons for them to pick up. And then this coming Monday, the 8th, we will have a Board of Trustees meeting. Now, to piggyback on what Mark was saying, the Hebron Board of Ed, when they have a reentry team to planning for the fall. And their idea, of course, is communication and a response team to work from the state guidelines. They will, besides school personnel, there'll also be a parent from each school on the committee. And one of the things that's been coming up with what school will look like in the fall that you didn't mention, Mark, was I've heard 1 week, half the kids go 1 week, and that week they're home doing on their Chromebooks, and then you switch the following week. Parents of young kids should have a lot of fun providing, as they go to work, providing for daycare, but that's what's going on there. And the Senior Center, the Commission on Aging, the Senior Center is working with the Association of Senior Center Personnel, the North Central Area Agency, and the Healthy Living Collaborative to offer virtual programs and resources as everybody's been missing their exercise classes and so on. And the North Central Area Agency on Aging is offering a new grocery shopping and delivery service for those over 60. If you're able to cook and prepare your own meals, but you're unable to shop, and if you're unable to pay for groceries, the NCAA is currently working with Geisler's Markets, and they're looking to expand that into other supermarket chains. That's all mine.
Okay, thank you. Peter?
Mine's going to be really long. Both of my boards haven't met, so I don't have an update.
Okay.
Just kidding.
John?
Mine were very long. The Open Space Committee did meet for the first time in a long time. Elected officers, Brian O'Connell is now the chairman, so that's great. I think the most important thing that happened is that they're going forward with the grant application for that large parcel on Airline Trail in south, off of
Colchester?
yeah. So, which is a fantastic piece of property. Just so everybody understands, this is a large parcel. I think it's 200 acres or something like that. And it's got all the functional attributes of water quality. It's right next to the trail. It buffers the new development, and the state there's a state grant that could pay for half of it. So we're going after the grant, and meanwhile the sellers have made a oral commitment to wait for us until November to see if we get that grant. And I think the only thing that they may have to ask is that the Board of Selectmen next meeting write a letter to Jim Celio saying that we are committed to this if we get the grant. Okay, so the second thing was the Hebron lead project, which is, I just want to say, a very complicated project, and Mal and that committee is doing a great job. You probably know they found some issue with the ceilings. It's going to cost like $80,000 or something like that. The state will pay for half of it. They've gone out for bids. They're not happy with the bids, and so they're wondering whether to delay it or not delay it. So they're making a decision on that. But otherwise, contractor's going to be out there June 15th to begin again, and we are hoping that they'll be done by August 1st. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Myself, I had a couple of things, a bunch of things. First off, AHM did hold a vote, and they do have an approved budget, so that was a good thing. At one point, there was a little bit of question, but they now have a budget. The 3 towns did vote in favor of the proposed budget that they were putting forth. On the fire department side, ET 310 rehab is well underway. I have no idea yet where it stands budget-wise, but it is in the shop. They're taking care of the paint issues and mechanical issues, and bringing that truck back up to snuff. As for PPE, the fire department right now is saying that they are in good shape with an adequate amount of PPE. They've been getting it from Chatham Health and what have you. So the fears of not having a proper amount of personal protective equipment, if the need arose right now, has been mitigated. The corporation just elected new officers. The president is now going to be Tom Morey for the corporation. Vice president is Gladys Bryant. The treasurer is Janice Morey, and the secretary is Deborah Dupree, with the assistant secretary being Mary Ann Cofield. And soon there's going to be, next to the observation building right there at the town hall, there's going to be vegetable plants. They've already done mulch around the Rosie the Riveter roses, and they're actually going to be doing a pollinator garden along the stone wall also, all in the hopes that they will still be able to have the August 21st dedication of the observation tower and the Rosie the Riveter people who, during World War II, so many women left their homes to go into the factories to support the men and women who fought overseas. So that's kind of where that all is. And with that, I think I'm done. Did you have anything, Andy, on Green Committee or any of that?
I reported on RAM construction, but the one thing that hasn't been spelled out is WPCA is going to be planning a public hearing in the next upcoming weeks. So we'll get more information on that out. But
okay.
other than,
Hey, Andy, can I chirp in on that a little bit?
yeah, Kevin, I didn't realize you're still on. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I just took my picture off for a minute. Yeah, the public,
He loves listening to us.
the 23rd of June is a public hearing, and we're going to be discussing the new EDU rate, the proposed budget, and the facility upgrade project. The engineer just did some revisions to the plans per the request of the Conservation Commission. Now it's got to go to Planning and Zoning. And if that's all clear, we'll be ready to go to bid. So we're hoping to get this out to bid because as soon as the funding comes through, we were on the a timetable of 2 years to complete the project.
Great, thank you.
So I got.
It's probably the wrong time to ask, but and hopefully everyone will give me their whatever. I'm trying to think of the word. How are things going with the transfer station?
Busy. We restrict the top section to 3 cars at a time, which backs them up on the street quite a bit.
Yeah.
And but everybody's getting used to it and being patient. So I've got no complaints with it.
Okay.
I'm
And
sure.
being quick.
Pardon me?
John?
And everybody's being quick. That's good too. There's no.
I was gonna say, when even I was there, I mean, people try to empty out and go as quick as possible. You know, but yeah, it's really easy. I was about the 4th car in a row the other day out on Niles. Hopefully, maybe somebody will someday consider 4 cars or something. I don't know, but it does seem slow. But
we still want to keep the social distancing, but I was there Sunday and the cars were backed up in front of the Public Works office for probably 10 cars, and it took me 10 minutes to get out of the office. But, you know, hopefully people keep moving, they get used to it, they find out it's too busy, they come at different times.
with the state loosening or increasing the numbers of people, is that going to affect how, you know, the opening of any other spaces?
I'm not sure what you're saying.
We'll continue to monitor that, Danny. We'll continue to monitor that with the state, but as Kevin stated earlier, we still have to maintain that social distancing. And the requirements came from the Chatham Health District director when he witnessed how we were operating. So we'll continue to get follow-ups on that, but as of right now, for the next couple of weeks, it's going to remain the same.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody have anything else? John?
Nope.
Okay. With that, Donna, is there anyone there for public comment?
There are no public comments indicated at this time.
Okay. Well, with no further ado, then motion for adjournment.
So moved at 9:18.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night, all. Have a great weekend.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Night, everybody.
Bye.